Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. A drug trafficking ring in northern Manitoba is at the center of a major investigation, according to the RCMP. Their operation is called Project Dairy, and it saw the arrest of 27 people being charged with 51 offenses. With more, here's T.R. Wheatley.
An escalation in violence in many of our First Nation communities.
Manitoba's RCMP integrated law enforcement team shared details of Project Dairy with the media Friday morning. It focused on the drug trade and violence in the Bonabonabee Cree Nation in northern Manitoba.
Majority of these instances, the violence is tied to the drug trade. Drug traffickers who bring in and distribute these illicit drugs have no regard for the safety and well-being of community members.
RCMP say the suspected leader of the criminal operation was 33-year-old Luke Greaves. RCMP say he was arrested while in Milner Ridge Correctional Centre.
It is common for drug traffickers to sometimes continue their business while they're incarcerated. In this case, as soon as we found out some information, we initiated an investigation.
RCMP were unsure as to how long this was happening in Bonabonabee, but did say they spent the past 7 months working diligently on the investigation, saying they uncovered an entire network that arranged the shipment, processing, packaging, and transportation of cocaine, oxycodone, fentanyl, and carfentanil into Bonabonabee. RCMP say float planes were also used to fly large quantities of alcohol to bootleg to residents. 51 charges have been laid against 27 people. 12 people, including one minor, are being charged with conspiracy to traffic a controlled substance and trafficking a controlled substance. 9 are from Bonabonabee, 2 from Winnipeg, and 1 from Thompson. 8 people have been charged with possession of a controlled substance for the purpose of trafficking and possession of proceeds of crime, with 5 being community members. A Winnipeg woman was charged with possession of a controlled substance for the purpose of trafficking and possession of a firearm while prohibited, and a male from Bonabonabee charged with unauthorized possession of a firearm. All charges have yet to be proven in court.
Our investigators did a great job collecting a significant amount of evidence against the accused and his co-conspirators.
RCMP have also issued warrants for arrest for 3 women and 1 man, all from Bonabonabee, in relation to Project Dairy.
More boots on the ground.
Manitoba's Justice Minister Matt Wiebe was also on hand for the major announcement.
We know that there's a long-standing issue of drug trafficking into northern communities, and that with it comes violence, comes overdoses, comes death, and ultimately comes despair for many communities. And we also know that when drugs get trafficked into these communities, they often get into the hands of young people, into the hands of teenagers, and they impact children.
RCMP also determined through Project Dairy the arson of the band office last year is connected, as well as a few other arsons around the community and multiple assaults. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A 10th person has now been charged in the death of 30-year-old Timothy Tutusis, who's from the Poundmaker Cree Nation in Saskatchewan. 26-year-old Danica LaPlante was arrested last Tuesday and made her first court appearance in Saskatoon on Wednesday. She has been charged with first-degree murder, unlawful confinement, and offering an indignity to human remains. Tutusis' remains were found in a home in Saskatoon on December 18th of last year, while Saskatoon police were executing a search warrant in a home in the 1700 block of 22nd Street West in the city's Pleasant Hill neighborhood. A total of 6 men and 4 women have been charged in the case, with their ages ranging from 22 to 45 years old. One of them includes Tutusis' cousin, Nikita Tutusis, who has been charged with manslaughter. 9 have been charged with first-degree murder, and 6 of them have been charged with unlawful confinement and offering an indignity to human remains. A longtime chief of the Thunder Bay Police Service has died. J.P. Levesque dedicated more than 3 decades to policing in Thunder Bay, serving in leadership roles, criminal and drug investigations, and incident command. Levesque became Thunder Bay's 8th chief of police in 2011. During his time, a systemic review of the Thunder Bay Police Service was conducted. and among other things concluded that systemic racism existed at an institutional level within the service. Levesque retired in 2018, just months after he was acquitted of charges of obstruction and justice and breach of trust. Levesque's successor, Sylvie Hoth, is currently facing 1 count of obstructing a public or peace officer, 1 count of breach of trust, and 2 counts of obstruction of justice. Hoth's charges go before the courts in April of next year. Our condolences to JP's family and friends. Parliament is assessing whether to deem First Nations policing an essential service. Since October, the Parliamentary Committee has been studying Indigenous policing and public safety. Testimonies have been heard from current and former chiefs across Canada. As reporter Savannah Craig presents, some people are looking for more.
I've lost 2 of my children. My daughter was shot and killed by your policing. My son died in police custody 5 months after.
Martha Martin called for change following the deaths of her 2 children, calls she made at the Assembly of First Nations Special Chiefs meeting 1 year ago. Years after the death of her 2 children, fatal interaction for First Nations continue with police.
Too often, discriminatory police action leads to serious injuries or deaths. Over-policing off reserve, under-policing on reserve, and over-representation of First Nations people in federal corrections.
Within 3 months near the end of 2024, 15 Indigenous people died while either in police custody or during interactions with police.
When people lack access to adequate safe housing, schools, and community resources, it often leads them down a path that ends with the justice system and encounters with police.
National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nippenak has taken the issue to a parliamentary committee on Indigenous affairs, where she gave testimony urging for First Nations policing to be declared an essential service.
First Nations police embody community values. They lead with peace before force, but they are underappreciated.
A move she believes will reduce fatal experiences between First Nations and police.
To be effective, First Nations policing must be rooted in community values and not colonial models.
Since October, the committee has been studying Indigenous policing and public safety, inviting testimony from many, including Quebec's provincial police and both current and former chiefs from across Canada.
Despite having the main RCMP detachment less than a mile away, they still felt unsafe and unprotected. Citizens feared calling the police or didn't trust they would get justice. Some remembered the days they were dragged to residential school by the RCMP.
Deeming First Nations policing an essential service has been discussed for years.
That in 2019, the Prime Minister at the time, Trudeau, had directed the ministers to start taking a path toward making Indigenous policing an essential service. We're now pushing 2026 here.
Chiefs were reassured during the election when Prime Minister Carney recognized First Nations policing as an essential service during our AFN forum.
Something needs to be done.
There have also been calls to track police violence towards First Nations.
At our last December Assembly, Chiefs were united in calling for a federal inquiry into discriminatory police practices after more than a dozen First Nations died in the custody of colonial police forces across Canada last summer and fall.
A year ago, the AFN passed a resolution to demand a national Indigenous-led public inquiry into police violence. 1 year later, no inquiry has been made.
Enforcement of First Nations laws, bylaws.
At this year's Assembly, Public Safety Minister Gary Ananda-Sangri said an inquiry is not on the table.
I would much rather put the energies into implementing the number of recommendations that already exist and moving forward on them, because they will speak to a lot of the underlying challenges that a national inquiry may reveal.
Ananda-Sangri says Ottawa will soon launch a civilian review commission, independent from the RCMP. It will review complaints of officer misconduct and provide recommendations to RCMP policies and practices.
How many more of our people have to die at the hands of your police?
For Martin, this is not enough. Her daughter Chantel Moore was shot and killed off reserve by a New Brunswick police officer.
not only live on reserve, how do we make it better for people who live off reserve so that they're not feeling threatened whenever they're pulled over by a police officer?
APTN News requested an interview from the National Chief to discuss declaring First Nations policing an essential service. We were not granted an interview after repeated attempts.
We shouldn't have to be there to remind them, because these are people who lost their lives. And, you know, the fact that we have to keep coming forward and bringing it to light and reminding people that this is still an ongoing problem, it's discouraging.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
Time for a quick break, but stick around, there's more to come. Welcome back to British Columbia now, where an atmospheric river has dumped record amounts of rain onto the BC and Washington coast and is causing chaos as residents and farmers struggle to save their livestock and properties. APTN's Tina House was there and has this story.
This latest atmospheric river that's hit BC and Washington state has dumped a deluge of rain in this area. As you can see behind me, the Nooksack River has crossed its banks into Canada and is now covering the Sumas Prairie here in Abbotsford, BC. This area was once dry, and now there's an estimated 10 feet of water.
20 minutes, I could see the bottom of the hut. Yeah, the corn stalk. Yeah.
And just down the road, we met Jeffrey Spitters, a third-generation poultry farmer who owns this farm. We were standing with Jeffrey as the breach of the Nooksack River was spilling under the railroad tracks onto his 30 acres of property.
I've got maybe 3 feet until it's in my barns with my animals. So.
How many animals do you have?
So I've got 40,000 birds here on this farm right now. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that we're able to get through this and this is where we sit, but we won't know until the high mark is done.
And just as we were shooting this interview, the water moved quickly at the end of the driveway, and within a couple more minutes, the water had completely covered his driveway, making it a fast escape as we all got to safety. Further down the road, police and city officials were helping residents flee the area. Water started to cross over roadways, and emergency officials were rushing to close those roads and enforce evacuation orders in Sumas Prairie West, as residents were trying their best to watch and secure their properties, while the water kept rising, carrying all types of debris. As of Thursday night, the water reached as far as Highway 1, stranding people in their vehicles for hours. Highway 1 was closed, and more evacuation orders were given as the water rose quickly. Friday morning, Highway 1, which is the main highway from the Lower Mainland, remained closed. Officials held a press conference to give an update.
As difficult as the last few days have been, there is more rain in the forecast. Now is the time for people in flood areas. If you have not done so already, pack a grab-and-go bag. Make it ready. Have the essentials that you need if you are asked to evacuate suddenly. Include items like seasonal clothing, medications, and important documents like your insurance.
And as of Friday morning, the water was 1 inch away from the chickens at the Urania farm. Many here are saying that this is a repeat of what happened in 2021, when another atmospheric river flooded Sumas Prairie, which was once the Sumas Lake before being drained and used for agriculture. But hopes for properties being safe are sinking as the water is expected to reach its peak later today. Tina House, APTN National News, Abbotsford.
Denison Mines held meetings in Saskatoon this week to determine the future of its Wheeler River uranium project. The project, located in the Athabasca Basin in northern Saskatchewan, would be the first new uranium mine in 11 years, following the completion of Cigar Lake in 2014. Several speakers used the meeting to share concerns, support, and questions about the Wheeler River project. The hearings were held in two parts, one in October and one this past week, with the latest focused on environmental risks and Indigenous consultation. English River, Lac La Ronge, Birch Narrows, Kanipic Métis Local Number 9 and Métis Nation Saskatchewan all presented. Concerns included woodland caribou habitat loss and the risk of uranium byproducts leaking into northern waterways. The Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission now has up to 120 days to decide whether the Wheeler project can move forward. A recent call for more Christmas donations from a local Indigenous organization in Kitchener has been answered. The group was worried it wouldn't have enough turkeys and toys to give out this year. And as CTV's Spencer Turcotte tells us, while more donations are still needed, they've avoided a crisis.
Oh, there is a turkey in there. Look at that.
A welcoming sight at the healing of the 7 generations during a period of uncertainty.
We found the last couple of years it's been very hard for us to get funding and grants for each of the programs we have.
It put them in a tough spot when it comes to their annual Christmas hamper program for First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples. They called on the community for help, saying, "We only had 70 turkeys to provide the community with our Christmas hampers. To date, we have had close to 100 families register."
Which means probably close to 200 children. So, it was very hard for us to make that decision when we put the post out that we would have to start turning people away.
After that post, people stepped up in a big way, quickly making up the gap in turkeys needed, which will all start being delivered next week.
We'll get this emptied out as much as we can.
Part of that Christmas hamper program includes toys and other items which are still needed.
Who doesn't love a little bit of skincare? We do need toys for the children. We're still looking for donations for hats and toques and socks and hygiene for men.
And of course, hygiene products for women are being accepted too.
It's very heartwarming this time of year when, so many families are suffering. The cost of everything has gone up.
Donations can be made through their website via e-transfer or in person at their office. Spencer Turcotte, CTV News, Kitchener.
Still to come here tonight, we'll continue our 12 Days of Christmas language series. Stay with us. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And a happy birthday to Eden, who celebrated her 14th birthday yesterday. Her dad, Richard, shared this picture of Eden with her regular cake and an ice cream cake. And while we're at it, happy early birthday to some of our own, Leighton, Charmaine, Ken, and Jared. Happy birthday to you all. For your chance to be our next photo of the day, send your photos to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, -1 for Fredericton and Charlottetown. 16 below in Kuujjuaq, -5 in Nain. -3 in Montreal, 7 below in Chibougamau. -5 in Sault Ste. Marie, 1 below in Ottawa. -14 in Thunder Bay, 21 below with the sun out in Sioux Lookout. -21 in Puckatawagan, Thompson, God's Lake, and Norway House. 19 below for Winnipeg and Dauphin. -19 in Regina, 20 below in Saskatoon. -24 in Stony Rapids, 22 below in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, sunny and -23 in High Level, 21 below for Fort Chipewyan. -14 in Edmonton, 5 below for Lethbridge. 9 above in Vancouver and Victoria, +5 for Kamloops. +1 with snow in Prince George, cloudy and 8 below in Smithers. -23 in Old Crow, 33 below for Dawson. -19 in Yellowknife, 12 below in Norman Wells. -20 for Sax Harbor, 17 below for Inuvik. -25 in Chesterfield and Whale Cove, 27 below in Arviette. -25 in Resolute, 29 below in Arctic Bay. It's time now for our Christmas language segment. It's APTN National News' version of the 12 Days of Christmas. And as today marks 8 APTN work days left until we're all on holidays, we bring you some Ojibway teachings from right here in Manitoba.
My name is Ethel Straker. Ethel Dishnikas, Saing Doji, Mimi Zibing. I'm from Barons River. Mino Makshegi Jigan. That's a good one. I was going to go along the line of a traditional Christmas we used to have, or Christmas morning. Like, you know how some people wait for Christmas morning to open their gifts and stuff. With us, it was different because it was time to go house to house. It was almost like Halloween in a way, because everybody would hand out candy to the kids. And then by the afternoon, that's usually when it would stop. Like, so you would have to get up in the morning. It was like an open house on the reserve, I guess. Like, the adults would go to whoever they knew, I guess. They would go there for the main meal, and then they would go to another house for dessert, or another house for side dishes, that kind of stuff. Like, after a while, people knew which ones had the best cabbage rolls, you know, or best meatballs, that kind of stuff. So, or else just fried bread and stuff like that. It was the same thing with New Year's, but with New Year's it was different. Like, when you went to the house, you would have to kiss the owner and wish them a Happy New Year. Mino Makshegi Jigan. Mino Makshegi Jigan. I do a lot of baking with my grandkids. So, Pakwejiganesek. Pakwejiganesek. There. Pakwejiganesek. That's what we make. One cookie is Pakwejigan. Like, they enjoy baking.
Sounds like a great tradition there. Well, it's Friday, and that means that joining us now is our host of Nouvelle Nationale, Kim Sullivan. Hey, Kim, tell us what's coming up on tonight's broadcast.
Hey there! Tonight's show is full of goodness. We headed out to the smallest reserve in Canada, Kakuna 22, where the council has been organizing for the last 10 years a distribution of Christmas baskets full of goodies from the land for their members who are mostly diaspora. Quebec Family Minister opens up about her own educational difficulties, and the nation of Essipit says no to mining exploration on their protected land. All that tonight at 6:30 Eastern.
Right on. Thanks, Kim. You can catch Kim in less than 2 minutes from now. That's all for tonight's newscast. If you need a weekend listen, though, the latest In Focus podcast looks at an important and overlooked issue, child welfare in Nunavut. Host Sierra Benton sits down with a child and youth representative to talk about what it will take to keep Nunavut's kids safe. You can find that episode of In Focus wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find the episode and a whole lot more over on our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy Miigwech, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.